His robe, I'm sick of him. The Nico D'Angelo is popping out of this man right now. Guys, it's Poseidon. Oh, it's Annabelle. I literally thought that was Poseidon. Dude, that was great. That was so good. Hello. So today I'm going to talk about episode 7 of Percy Jackson. And yeah, you know the deal by now. I'm gonna try to make this quicker than it normally is, because it's normally like 40 minutes long, but I'm gonna try to cut that down a little bit to maybe like 20 minutes, hopefully. But yeah, basically episode 7 was really good. I do have a ranking of all the episodes so far. I think it's like episode 7 is like below, what's my favorite? Episode 5? I actually don't know, but it's like pretty close to the top of my favorite episodes. So yeah, obviously I'm gonna start with my complaints as always. I'm trying to think. I don't know if I have any. I feel like I had one. I think my main complaint would be about Krusty's. But the thing is, like, first of all, like, I didn't even think they were gonna do Krusty's in the show. So the fact that it's there, I'm like, okay, like, I gotta give them that. But the way that they did it with, like, Percy walking in and immediately just being like, you're Procrustes, I was just like, okay. But, like, it was necessary because that's, like, the way that they get into the underworld, which, like, I totally forgot that DOA Records is just in the musical and it's not in the book. So yeah, like, it worked out in the end, but I just thought that part was weird. And other than that, I pretty much have no complaints. So yeah, basically I'm gonna go through the episodes sort of chronologically. Like, I'm gonna talk about all of the underworld stuff and then I'll talk about the flashbacks, just because I don't really have that much to say about all the underworld stuff, because it was pretty much just like the book. Like, it was pretty book accurate, other than like the difference with the pearls. But like, it just felt very like, okay, yeah, like, this is what's happening. So yeah, basically they go to Krusty's waterbed store. They do the whole thing. He gets trapped in the waterbed, which, by the way, in the book they literally like kill him. I'm pretty sure it's like dark in the book, but they did not kill him. But I didn't even notice until my second time watching the episode that there's like blades on the bed, like, that could kill him, but they choose to like spare him. So that's crazy. So there's that, and then basically in the back of the waterbed store is the entrance to the underworld. They go down, and then like throughout the episode there's like little flashbacks, so that might be where one of the flashbacks is. But then basically they land in the underworld, and they're walking through the line of dead people to get to Charon, who is the boatman of the underworld, who like ferries souls across the river Styx, as we know. And so they sort of go up to Charon and they're like, we need to get to Hades' palace, and Charon is like, you are not dead. And so it's sort of a funny moment. They're like bargaining with him, and then he basically calls Cerberus on them with his little ghost whistle. and then it's like this epic chase. Cerberus is running after them. He like swallows up Grover, and they're like, oh no. And then they run away. They sort of distract him. Annabeth saves the day, starts like scratching Cerberus, and Grover's set free. All this fun stuff. And then Grover's like, I lost my pearl, because as we found out in the end of episode 6, in the show, unlike the book, they have 4 pearls. In the book, they only have 3. And it's the whole thing of like, there's 3 of them plus Percy's mom, who they're trying to all save. So it's like, they have this like, oh, we can save them all. But then Grover loses one, which just makes it that much more sad. So he loses it. They've like escaped Cerberus, and they're like, whatever, it's fine. We're just gonna keep moving forward, see what happens. And then they get into the Fields of Asphodel, which I'm sort of like, I don't really know what's happening with the Fields of Asphodel, because in the book, it's like the Fields of Asphodel. It's like these dead souls just like wandering around aimlessly, and they don't really know like what's going on. But in the show, they were calling it the Forest of Asphodel, and it was like these dead souls, but they were like trees. I don't know if those are like 2 different things, or if they just like reimagined it for the show. Either way, it was really cool. Like the roots, that was crazy. And so basically, they're like, okay, all the people here are like tied down by something they regret and all this stuff. And so then they hear Cerberus, and they're like, okay, we gotta keep running. And then they lose Annabeth, and there's this really great acting from Walker where he's like, Annabeth. And they run back, and basically Annabeth is like getting trapped by the vines because there's something that she regrets. Which, like, I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know if they're trying to set up a little bit of like an Annabeth, maybe she's the traitor sort of vibe. Obviously she's not, but like, I don't know if that's what they're trying to do. It could just be like something with her family, who knows. And I hope we get a little tie back to that in the last episode. That would be really cool. But basically Annabeth is then trapped, and she uses her last pearl, or no, she uses her pearl to get out of there. And so now it's just Percy and Grover in the underworld. And I think at this point I'm gonna take a quick stop to just appreciate the CGI and like all of the special effects and the visual effects of this episode. They're really good. Like Cerberus looked great. Like I was like pleasantly surprised. The Fields of Asphodel looked so good. Like the creepy like mummy people looked so good. Karen looked so cool. Like all of it I think looks great. And also Hades Palace, it's so good. It really looks great. So I gave credit where credit is due. So then basically Percy and Grover are like, okay, we need to get to Hades Palace. And it's at this point I think where Grover, his shoes, start to try to drag him into Tartarus. Obviously, big moment. Starts to sort of signal that something is wrong here, something's a little off. And Grover almost gets dragged out into this pit. But then like Percy saves him, it's all good. And then they're like, oh my gosh, what just happened? Whatever. And then Percy goes in his bag and he finds the Master Bolt. Big switch up. They're both like, that's not the Master Bolt. That's not the Master Bolt. And then they're like, how is the Master Bolt in your bag? It's really funny. They're sort of just like, something is going on here. We don't really know what. They now think Ares is involved, obviously, because Ares gave them the bag that now has the Master Bolt in it. And so that would just make sense. The Ares obviously is involved. And so they're like, okay, well, the whole quest was to get the Master Bolt, and now we have it. we're past the deadline, but we have to go to Hades' palace and save your mom. So we obviously are gonna go do that. So they walk a long way to Hades' palace, and they're in there, and I'm sorry, biggest shock of maybe this whole season is Hades. I was just not expecting what we got. He is so funny, so great. He's so Nico D'Angelo coded. Oh, it's so good. I'm obsessed with the way that Hades is in the show. So yeah, basically they show up and they're like, Hades, give me back my mom. I can't give you the Master Bolt, but like give me my mom. Just like do it out of the good of your heart. And he goes, I don't want the Master Bolt. He's like, I do not want the Master Bolt. I want my Helm of Darkness back. And they're like, we do not have your Helm of Darkness. And he's like, obviously you do. And then this whole funny sort of scene unfolds where neither of them really understand what the other one is trying to get out of this transaction. Hades thinks that Percy and Grover have his Helm of Darkness that has also mysteriously gone missing. Percy and Grover want to get Sally back, but they think that Hades wants the bolt. And Hades is like, I don't want the bolt. And Percy and Grover are like, we don't have your Helm of Darkness. And so there's like this big miscommunication. And so slowly they're sort of starting to piece together the whole real story about who is involved, who is directing this whole scheme of the Master Bolt. And they essentially at this moment in time are like, it's Ares. Like Ares is behind all of it. Which is like not really correct. But as they're having this conversation, they sort of start to realize there's like a bigger issue happening. And in this very intense zoom in on Percy's face, the music stops and he just goes, Kronos. And then the music gets really intense and Hades is like, excuse me? And Percy starts to explain that he thinks Kronos is involved. He thinks he is the one who's coming back, who tried to drag them into Tartarus, who's orchestrating this whole thing. And in Percy's dreams, he's like, that was not Hades' voice. Like, he thought it was going to be Hades, but it's not the same voice. He thinks it's Kronos, which is true. And so then the tone immediately shifts. Hades is like, I'll give you your mom and you give me the Master Bolt. And they're like, wait, we thought you didn't want the Master Bolt. And he's like, if Kronos is back, then I'm gonna need the Master Bolt. And then he's like, ask me for Sanctuary. And Percy's like, what? And he's like, ask me for Sanctuary and I'll protect you. Like, if Kronos is coming back, you're gonna need all the help you can get, basically is what he says. Now I'm just thinking about this now. Obviously, at this moment in time, Hades knows about Nico. Knows that Nico's in the Lotus Casino. And obviously, the reason Hades puts Nico and Bianca in the Lotus Casino for the most part is because he doesn't want either of them to reach the age of 16 because that would cause the Great Prophecy to happen and all this stuff. So now that Percy's around, Percy's here and he's in his palace. He's in his palace. Hades is like, this kid's in trouble, and if he reaches 16, there's gonna be a huge war between all the gods, so we gotta whatever. So he's like, I'm gonna put Sanctuary on this kid or whatever. And then Percy and Grover are sort of like, we can't give you the bolt. Thanks for the help, but you know, we're just gonna come back and save my mom later. And they're like, I trust that my dad, Poseidon, will protect Sally and like it'll work out in the end. And so Percy and Grover leave the underworld. And then at this point it's sort of like, this is where there's another flashback, but eventually after the flashback it cuts back to they have arrived at Montauk, which so I didn't piece this together. In the book, the big fight with Ares is in Montauk, or is it in St. Monica? Because I feel like it's in St. Monica. What am I saying? Santa Monica. I feel like it's in Santa Monica. Like, they were talking about, they changed something about this scene, but I don't remember if it was like in the book they, out of the underworld, they return to Santa Monica and then they have to get back to Montauk to fight Ares, or if the fight is in Santa Monica and then they have to go back to camp eventually. Either way, it's just very drawn out. So they just get sent straight back to Montauk for just quickness of it all. And then the episode sort of ends with a dramatic Poseidon voiceover, which I'm going to talk about in a sec with the flashbacks and all that. And it's beautiful, and there's Percy and Annabeth eye contact, and the sunset is gorgeous, and it's like literally, it's like the poster for the show. And they're about to fight Ares. Well, Percy's about to fight Ares. So yeah, that's basically that whole part of the episode. But then throughout, there are these little flashbacks of Percy and Sally, which they're so cute. And this is like why I live for this show, them just giving us this, like, these little bits that aren't in the book. Because like, you can't really do I guess you could do flashbacks like that in the book, but they didn't, and so they're adding this in now, and I think it's so important. And I think the flashbacks of Sally specifically are so important because, especially in this episode, just reminding us and like honing in throughout the season how important Sally is to Percy. It's actually a lot. It's actually a lot. And I actually can't even tell you how much these specific flashbacks were so encapsulating to me, because Sally in the books is often portrayed as like an angel, because she like is an angel, but in these flashbacks and in the show, it's showing not her like being a bad parent by any means, but her making difficult decisions for the benefit of Percy, which is so important, and just going to show how much she cares about him. And like, but like, even when, from Percy's perspective, as like however old he was, like 7, he was like so hurt in those moments, but like she's doing it for him, and it's so good. So there's like 4 main flashbacks, I think. There's the first one, which is in the car, which we got a little teaser of in episode 6 when Hermes is talking to Percy and he like grabs his arm. We get a flash of baby Percy in the car, and then it stops. It's only like a second long, but in this episode we get the full flashback, and so it's baby Percy in the car, and Sally is about to take him to like a new boarding school, which is supposedly like the best school in the state for like kids who are neurodivergent and have trouble paying attention, or like just whatever like Percy does. And so it's basically this whole thing of her being like trying so hard to put him in the best situation, and him just not wanting to go at all, and him just being like, I don't want to go. And so they get into this fight, and it's so emotional, and it's so sad. It's like them in the parking lot, and she's like, you can make this, like, this is as ugly as you make it. Like, this is our last time we're gonna see each other before you go to this boarding school. So, like, let's just enjoy this time and all this stuff. It's really sweet. And so that's sort of the first flashback. This just very intense, dramatic moment. And then next, there is, what is it? Oh, when she's talking to the principal? Yeah. When she's talking to the principal, basically he's like, there's been a complication. Percy's actually not welcome in this school, and Sally's like, excuse me? Because apparently he did some drawing. Well, it's the drawing we saw in episode 1, the whole Pegasus one. and he like, it's like why he got kicked out of his last school, because he like was like, oh, I saw a flying horse, and they were like, this kid needs to go. And so he goes to this new school, and then the headmaster is like, we actually can't accept this kid because he drew a picture of a flying horse. And so he's like, we don't have the psychiatric help, is that the word? Psychological help? Girl, I don't know. That your child needs, and all this stuff. And so Sally is like, I have no other option here. I can't homeschool this kid. This isn't exactly what she said, but my whole time I was thinking, Sally, she is a working single mother. I don't know if at this time she might have been with Gabe at this point, but like, not like he's providing anything for the fam, you know? And so I'm like, she's a working single mother, and you want her to homeschool her neurodivergent kid who has like ADHD, dyslexia. You want her to do it? I'm like, girl, that is your job, Mr. Headmaster. That is your job. So anyway, he's basically like, we can't do that. And then there's just this shot of baby Percy like sitting out in the hall, and he's like not in the room, but like the door's open and he can hear what they're saying. So sad. And it's just him, he's just so sad because he's like, I'm such a burden to my mom. And it's like, it's like actually not okay, bro. It's so sad. So yeah. And then the third flashback. The third and fourth are sort of, they're like separate in the episode, but they're like pretty much the same thing. It's after they like leave the school, and they're like getting sundaes, ice cream sundaes, and basically Percy's just really sad, and Sally's like, look, I'm just trying to do what's best for you, and he says the line, I would never do this to you. And with that, Sally has to get up and go to the bar. She gets up and she goes to the bar, and she's like, I need a break. And it's so sad because like, no, like I actually can't. I really did cry during the episode. I mean, I recorded it, so you can probably see me crying in the video. Not specifically during this part, but like when the flashback continues later in the episode, I was literally like weeping. Like it was so sad. It's a lot. But Sally Jackson is just like, she tries so hard to do what's best for Percy. And for her to be like, I would never do this to you, and her just like sitting alone at the bar and just being like, I don't know how to help my kid. It's a lot. So basically, that's sort of the end of that. And then fourth flashback comes in. It's still Sally's at the bar. We resume in that moment. And she takes a little match. She strikes it and she drops it into... Basically, she's making an offering to Poseidon, which... like, guys, the parallels are paralleling. In episode 2, we see Percy make his own little makeshift offering, which obviously the offerings are like sacred, and like it's like you do it so you can speak to a god. And in episode 2, Percy does it so he can talk to his mom, which is like symbolism within itself of him doing this practice that is for the gods, but him doing it for his mother, because that's how much he like respects and admires his mom. Okay, and so Sally takes this ice cream sundae that she shared with Percy, which is like her most sacred thing at this moment, strikes a match and drops it in. Like, y'all don't even understand how much this scene wrecked me. We've heard since the beginning, like very early press, that there was a flashback scene with Sally and Poseidon. I think I and many others assumed it was like gonna be oh my god, Poseidon and Sally like before like Percy was around, like maybe like a first meeting or like a moment they shared or something. But it happens now when Percy's 7 years old, and she strikes this match, and immediately there's thunder, there's lightning happening. And immediately from outside, we can see a figure walk in. Immediately. He immediately comes. And this whole scene, like, honestly and truly might be the best of the entire season. I think it's a mixture of just like, it's such an emotionally charged moment. It's so sad because you're really just feeling for Sally. And it's also, it's like the first time we see Poseidon ever in the show. And he immediately walks in, and we're getting major themes of like the reason Sally kept Percy away from Camp Half-Blood so long is because she didn't want him to be involved with the Greek family because they're all so toxic and whatnot. And her just being like, I don't want to lose him. It's like so beautiful, everything about it. And the way they do not even look at each other. Like, he walks into the building and she does a little like he's here. But they do not look at each other once. And to me, oh my god, to me, in my head, it makes so much sense that they wouldn't even be able to look at each other, because Sally is probably thinking, like, first of all, when Poseidon and Sally met, Poseidon was like, Sally, you are a god amongst women. Like, you deserve everything. I'm gonna build you a palace in the sea, and you can be with me forever. And she was like, if my life's gonna mean anything, I have to live it myself. And so she declined that. And so Sally, in this very tough emotional position with Percy, and she's very much struggling, she can't even look at Poseidon in the sense that like he is like her one true love, and like he offered her the world, and she was like made the right decision. Like, don't get me wrong, not that she like regrets it necessarily, but just like the idea of like what could have been, like she can't even look at it. And then Poseidon, just like he could like, just like the shame he feels for like leaving her in such a difficult situation, and like with like Percy being a child of the Great Prophecy, like the inevitability of like what will happen to him. They're just so, they can't even look at each other, and it's so beautiful, and it's literally the best thing I've ever seen. And so basically they're talking about like what she should do with Percy, and he says, oh my god, something that Poseidon says is like, she's like, I don't know, Sally's talking about like her issues, and she's like, I don't even know if I like want to talk to you, or like I don't know why I'm telling you this or whatever. And Poseidon's like, essentially paraphrasing, he's like, I'll like listen to whatever you have to say, because the most unfair part about this all is that you have no one to talk to about it, because she's so isolated. Oh my gosh. Because we in the show, I'm pretty sure we haven't even gotten the lore of like Sally's parents and whatnot. But like it really is sad. Like I don't remember exactly what it was. But basically both of her parents are dead, I'm pretty sure. And she like, I can't I don't know what's canon and what's from fanfiction. I actually don't know. But both of her parents are dead, essentially, and she like, from my memories, someone had cancer, and she spent like her last like savings, and like when she was like 17, she like spent everything like taking care of someone, and then they died, and so she like, but then someone died in a plane crash, I don't know. But basically both of her parents are dead, and so she has like no one to turn to for this. And so it's just such a like, it literally makes me feel so sad, the scene, but it's also so relieving to see Sally be able to talk to someone about it. So yeah, that's the whole episode. I can't, it was so good. I think it's really, the episode's really great because like on one hand, all of the underworld stuff, to me, seemed like that is when I thought of like the Percy Jackson TV show, that is what I was expecting. Like it was very much like book equivalent to me. It was like enough. And it was like they didn't really add much. It was pretty much just like 1-to-1 like the book. But then those little flashback scenes, that's like the added flavor. And I feel like this show has surprised me so much with like how much they're really delving into like new themes and really developing characters. And so like I don't know, it's just a really interesting episode of it being such a mix of like that's what I was expecting and it also being like the new amazing stuff that they're adding. Right. And so as I'm filming this, the finale comes out tomorrow night, and so does the documentary. Dude, like I'm honestly like, thank God they're releasing that, because like I could not survive with just a final episode and nothing else. I need that behind the scenes. So yeah, I'm so excited to see the final episode. And once the final episode comes out, you bet I'm gonna rewatch the whole show from the beginning. At this point I've seen pretty much every episode twice, and I've seen episodes 1, 2, and 3 and 5 3 times. So I'm so excited. I'm excited. I just can't stop talking. I'm excited to see Charlie in tomorrow's episode. I'm excited to maybe see Dior. I'm excited to see Aries again. I'm excited to see Sally again. I'm excited to see Zeus and Poseidon. Also, did not know Poseidon was British? Question mark? I think he's British, Australian. I don't know. Didn't know that. Okay, that's all I have to say. Bye.